It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, it is Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm chuckling because I kept hitting, maybe it's old age, I kept hitting and I couldn't hit the on button for the microphone.
The thing isn't turning on.
And so 3 or 4 times before the microphone went on, into the microphone, I'm like, like I started 3 times and it just got, and realized the microphone wasn't on.
I can't hear myself.
All right, here we go. So, you and I talked about the fact that after Trump, and I don't think he necessarily did a bad job. There were the things that the Democrats are going to take advantage of because he decided that he's going to use the Democratic talking points of talking identity politics, which he should have never done. He should have simply said, "You guys are just hooked on this race thing, aren't you? I'm not.
Yeah.
What I do benefits all." He should have never got into the thing that at one time, she claimed to be Indian and then she became black, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's going down a rabbit hole.
Right.
And as we said, the talk should have simply been, what? No. And I thought he started it out great when he goes, really? This is a question? Not even an hello? I thought that was superb. But then as it got into the more of it, I'm like, nope. That and the fact of when he was asked about is Vance ready, to be it, and he started out the conversation, and I think he realized later on as he was saying it, but he started the conversation saying it really doesn't matter because people vote for the president, they don't vote for the vice president, and that was the wrong answer. The wrong answer should have been, he's absolutely the best qualified person that I could have picked, and way more qualified than Harris. Here's a guy who served his country. Here's a guy who was in this business. Here's a guy, blah, all the talking points down. So I think the problem is the the Democrats took a completely unqualified vice presidential candidate and decided to make her the nominee for president without consulting any of the 14 million Democrats that voted in the primary. Mm-hmm. That would have been one of the great answers. Mm-hmm. And as you said later on, then the things that I did helped, blacks. But my goal is to help everybody. I wish to lift everybody, including blacks, up by ensuring that they've got good jobs. Therefore, you can acquire wealth and you can decide what you do in your life, not the government through poverty programs that have failed miserably for years, but people on their own being able to get great jobs because the opportunities are available in this country, including blacks. Don't go down this rabbit hole of, well, one time she said this. And then I saw the surrogates posting, see, here she is on a cooking show saying she's Indian. It's like, yeah, and they're going to come back with another one, and you're going down a rabbit hole that has no end. Mm. You don't do that with Democrats. Don't argue like a Democrat. God, Trump campaign. Anybody listening? Here at 9 minutes past 5 a.m., anybody listening? Don't argue like Democrats. And we had played the surrogates seem to be doing a pretty good job. We had played Tom Cotton earlier. Mm-hmm. Said, excuse me, don't even get into that. Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Right.
Vice President Harris called him a racist. Mm-hmm. She's been working for a racist. Have you asked her that question? Those are all fine and dandy questions. You're not going down the rabbit hole because you're not saying, I agree with identity politics, or I'm going to go down in that. You're simply saying, you're calling my candidate a racist? Do you understand what your candidate claimed? And she's accepted working for him for 4 years, and he said this. And you can... There is no easier argument because the Democrats have practiced identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not individuals, over the last 35 years in this country. And they started it with conservative blacks. That's where the modern identity politics movement started. You can destroy them on the issue. You can throw it back in the face, say, stop being a racist. And all Trump had to say when she was going, well, you said this about this person, said this about that, because they were black. I didn't say anything because they were black. I said it because they were wrong. See, you're caught up in the racism. He should have looked right back at Rachel Scott and said, you're the racist. You're the one caught up in judging people by groups and not individuals. I didn't disagree with any of those people or go after any of those people because of their skin color. I went after them because they were wrong on the issues. End of story. Stop the racism. This is 2024. Stop the bigotry, Democratic Party. Stop the identity politics, Democratic Party. I don't know why.
Well,
this isn't hard. It's a major point that they can make. And this, by the way, if people are talking about the head of the Trump campaign and part of their failures, their failure to identify identity politics, because that's what they're paid for. And to pound on Trump, don't argue this way. Here's how you argue, and here's how you win.
They want the conversation, the left wants the conversation to continue on identity politics. They want that conversation to continue. And as long as you engage in it, they're going to continue that. You help them do that.
But you and I were talking about earlier the tribalism that seems to be existing because you had people, and I just used an example. There were more of them. I used Tommy Lahren, who was, Fox News contributor, and, sorry, he argued the wrong way. And then it was like, well, everything, every insult, you're not really for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You were never for Trump.
Yeah.
And she wants Trump to win. And it's the fact of, you've got some panic going on. And we saw this before in 2016, that if you didn't agree with Trump 100% of the time, I remember the call that we had the one time, and Trump said something that wasn't true, and we said, stop lying. And a woman called up and said, he's never lied ever. Mm-hmm. It's like, stop it. Stop being delusional here. And the fact is, I still want him to win because the other choice is completely and totally unacceptable. And the goal has to be to get rid of the authoritarianism and the bureaucracy. If you wish to call it deep state, you can call it that. The authoritarian bureaucracy that exists in there that wishes to make law instead of going through the republic that we have here, which is our elected representatives. That's what I'm most concerned with. I'm concerned with the authoritarian state that has come from the Democratic Party. I'm scared of what they did when it comes to censoring with Facebook, with Twitter. You saw, I think, the fear and the surprise from people like Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, that were on the Twitter files. All Democrats went, oh, my God, when they realized. It seemed like they were pretty terrified at what the authoritarian state, which comes from the Democratic Party, had created in this country. So there's a big thing here. There's no reason to panic. Everybody's panicking at this time. Every single major issue favors Trump. The surrogates are doing a good job. I suggest the campaign, which is doing a better job than they did in 2020, do even a better job and get more focused, especially on issues where you can slam dunk, destroy the Democrats, and that's on racism. You can absolutely bury them on their racist narrative. So do it. It's not hard.
And you also, if you're staying focused, we go back to the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal in 2020, and that is, look at all the accomplishments. If you focus on these accomplishments, you win.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
Those are the things that need the focus right now. Remind, and yes, you have to remind some people that this is what was going on back then. I was president when you had much greater buying power. I was the president calling for the United States to build a wall on the southern border. I was the president that was looking out without getting us into a war, was still going after the enemy and eliminating threats. And all of these things, again, require a very repetitive action that's going to have to go on between now and Election Day. There's no way around that. And the other thing, too, is that the tribalism for everybody on the right, everybody who I believe wants the same thing. They want Trump to win. We want him to be president and her to not ever be president. Well, it's real simple. The time for the tribalism is called a primary, and that time is over. The primary season is done. The convention is behind us, and now we're in the home stretch to Election Day, and this is the time that you have to fight repeatedly over and over and over again. Not that you won't have differences but the goals are pretty clear, and it has to be a clear message. It has to be a very direct, consistent message from the campaign.
I saw on the National Review Facebook page yesterday, they got into the discussion. Yeah, we should have been C. We told you it should have been DeSantis and Youngkin. And I'm like, stop it. Now, I had said back then, I thought DeSantis, back a year ago, was a better candidate than Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that now based on the fact that lawfare completely blew up in their face.
Yeah.
And Trump is the imagery of the government, of the Democrats pushing this country to a banana republic that the public recognized and didn't like.
Yep.
And so I look at it now, and I believe that, and again, I don't know about J.D. Vance. I still, even though I think Trump should have led with, no, J.D. Vance is the most qualified, he was actually telling the truth. People are probably going to vote for Trump, and Vance isn't going to matter. People are going to say, well, they're not hitting Trump on anything.
Well, and it's, Vance's rise, if there's going to be a rise by J.D. Vance, is going to be on J.D. Vance. And for those of us on the right, we insist on you earning that, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. And so far, so good in terms of what he's done in the Senate, and what he's been able to do on the campaign trail. Everything else about being the future of the party, whether he's going to be president one day, all that has to be earned. But right now, 24 has to be won.
Yeah, and I think there's a political point that Youngkin might have solidified Virginia for them. There's a political point there. But the fact is, people really vote. They really do. They vote for the person who is. I don't remember the last time somebody said, I'm not going to vote for that ticket because of the vice president.
Right.
And I do think it shows a sign of weakness that they have, which is why the liberals were happy that that they got some what they believe is some commercial time out of Trump, because they had nothing after the interview yesterday, because I believe they had nothing on Trump. That's why they weren't attacking Trump the last 2 weeks, because they can't find anything on him. Nothing works.
Right.
So they went after J.D. Vance.
Right.
But it's not over, and the surrogates are doing a good job. I want to play a couple of clips here from CNN yesterday, okay? Mm-hmm. Here they're going back and forth. Just listen to the tone of the conversation if the average independent is listening to it, all right? Is this going to make you view Harris and say, oh, wow, she really is Hope and Change 2.0? Mm-hmm. Here we go.
The issue is, can she articulate an argument? How is she going to talk about the fact that she was in the building when the border went to chaos, when the economy went down the gutter, when we have a world in disarray, when the combination of Biden and Harris...
The economy is not in the gutter.
Okay, Brian, I know it feels that way to most Americans.
I think the reality is that, as I've said, you've had America... Look, Democrats spent my entire adult life talking about the fact that the stock market was not a measure of the economy, that we should not be giving the American people a macroeconomics lesson. And now all of a sudden they don't seem to care about the fact that the inflation is outpacing the wages. So yes, I get it. That
inflation is not outpacing.
Inflation has outpaced
You don't think
the wages.
inflation's a problem?
I didn't say it's not a problem. I think it's not outpacing wages. Let's just use the facts.
Inflation has outpaced wages literally the entirety of this administration.
That's Joe Pinion, by the way, a black Republican strategist on CNN. Very effective, and they're trying to say inflation. Now, you're the average person out there. Do you believe that the economy and inflation is not a problem? That's what they're trying to sell
exactly.
you.
You heard them try. Right. It was a very dismissive, oh, that's not a problem. That's not a, for the elitist, it's not.
Yeah.
For the people of America, it is.
Now, you're pulling down $1 million, $2 million a year to do your job. Probably not as big as a problem to you.
Right.
Most people, the vast majority of people, are not in that situation. And by the way, to me, that comes across as very cold and callous. You're dismissing what's really going on. And I do believe that ticks people off.
Oh, I think so.
To acknowledge, oh, no, because it's fine. Are you kidding me?
They were scoffing at it.
And so that we'll have another one coming up next. But, yeah, I mean, and this is on CNN. So you know it eventually comes back to the issues. It doesn't come back to anymore. She's a look at this shiny object. We have a shiny, look at the sign. Can you see the shine? We didn't have a shiny object. Now there's a shiny object. She's a and not that shiny, but there's this shiny object over here.
We used to have an old and tarnished object that didn't know where it was half the time. Now we have a shiny object.
And you notice that they weren't nobody's really trying to say, well, she's not for that. She's for the same things as Trump. They don't even buy it.
No. And by the way, that's the biggest concern you must have if you're part of her campaign. With her not speaking, others are going to just go after you without you. That's what you just heard. They're going to have the debate about you. If you're not out there and talking to the media, they'll talk about you.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Even with summer drying, U.S. pasture and rangeland conditions appear steady week over week. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says for the period ending July 28th,
good to excellent ratings down a point this week from the previous week to 39% good to excellent. The very poor to poor rating steady at 29%.
Dry areas are a patchwork nationwide, with very poor to poor ratings noted within states of regions like the Mid-Atlantic, Intermountain West, and Pacific Northwest.
That's the bad news. The good news is that in the heart of the Midwest, we still see some pretty green conditions. That's reflected in crop conditions as well. Pasture and range, 85% good to excellent in Missouri. Other Midwestern states at or above 70% include Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
With green pastures also found in several parts of the Northeast, and pockets of very good to excellent pasture and rangeland conditions in states like Florida and North Dakota. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just want to play another clip from CNN, and this is, again, Scott Jennings, and they're discussing Sean Fain of the UAW, who, remember, endorsed Biden back months ago and then said, well, I know that's not whom really the majority of my workers are for, but that's who we're going to endorse, which is mind-boggling to begin with. But he endorsed Kamala yesterday. Here's some of the back and forth on CNN.
He also was pretty clear that the major change is the energy factor. They were worried about Biden's ability to energize the base. Now they're not.
Can you eat energy?
I mean,
Can you use it to pay your mortgage? I mean, the problem
you can power a campaign with it, though.
The problem with the UAW is, in this union ball, this half-hearted low energy endorsement he gave today, is when he endorsed Biden in the first place, he admitted most of my members are going to vote for Donald Trump, and the exact same conditions that existed in the country then exist today. The only thing that doesn't exist apparently anymore is Joe Biden, but the inflation exists and the hardship that working families have faced still exists. That has not gone away, and Harris has been right next to Biden for the whole thing. So I didn't find that to be terribly compelling. He told the truth earlier this year when he said UAW rank and file, they're looking at the Republicans.
There you go.
How long is that going to last in unions? You and I have talked.
I don't know, till they turn out the lights. It's because leadership is hell-bent.
You and I talked about how leadership of the unions have been for illegal immigration since the very beginning. Since you and I have been together.
Right.
Over 19 years, you and I have talked about this.
Right.
And we're like, my God, they're sitting there talking about the fact that they're for illegal immigration, and the rank and file was completely against it. You're talking over 20 years now.
Well, when Jan Brewer was governor in Arizona and Obama's administration sued her, the union leadership was in support of the Obama administration.
Yep.
Unreal.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, it really is interesting. I mean, when you think about, and we've been talking about this for the longest time, and it started with illegal immigration and union leadership support for illegal immigration, which was competing with union workers. And it's like, remember, who was it? Was it Harry Reid who said there are not one illegal
working construction in Nevada?
Nevada, yeah. Remember that? Not one?
Yeah.
And it was like, wow.
Yep.
But remember at the point they were talking to union workers about that, and union workers said, no. And the local union bosses were saying, no, that's completely untrue. We know they're here, and working and taking construction jobs away from, because if they weren't there, it would be union workers. And at that point, you and I both remember the union leadership was saying, no, we're for illegal immigration. Right. We were saying way, way back then, why in the hell are you supporting?
Right.
The Democrats, your union leaders are working against you when it actually comes to jobs. And I think now we're to the point with unions, and I'm a former United Steelworker, International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers also. And so I know what it's like to have a union job. I know what it's like to advise a small local on their union contract and tell them it's a great contract and sign it with the warning that, yeah, you guys, approve it, but understand if you approve it, I'm going to lose my job because I knew I was on the lowest end of the totem pole. And when you get a 9% across the board raise to start the contract, somebody's getting laid off. The point is, in economics, there's always consequences.
Right.
Always. You increase costs, there's always a consequence. I was the consequence there.
Yeah.
And ended up, though, in another job that paid more. When I got hired, my brother worked at the company, and that's where I became a United Steelworker at that point after it. But I've always been smart enough to understand that if the company isn't making a profit, a union is useless. And when a union leadership decides to go full in with management of a company who believes that their only way to survive because the company is afraid of government regulation and what the government may do to them, that everybody goes along with making a product, electric vehicles, that cannot make a profit for the companies, even with the subsidies. And the goal is to go 100% of the product that they cannot make a profit on, even with the subsidies. There's a problem when your union leadership is leading you down the path of union suicide. The union leaders don't seem to mind that. I believe the union rank and file do, and the union rank and file understand if we don't make a profit on electric, on the product that we sell, we're not going to be in business. It doesn't matter. And so, yeah, let's consider the Republicans, because Republicans may say, look, no special rules. You as a union have to prove that you can exist in the marketplace. If your productivity is better, and your productivity, because you're in a union, and your claim is you can produce better, you're more efficient, therefore you're worth the cost of a union to the company, well, fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Most Republicans would agree with you. Yeah, in the marketplace, go ahead. If you wish to have a union, no problem. But the fact is, there is no union. The union's gone if the company isn't making a profit. And that's why unions have decided so many unions have decided to go where the union leadership were, you go back and you look at George Meany, you look at FDR, these people absolutely against public unions and governments where they've gone, because the purpose of a union is to share more of the profits of the company with the worker.
Yeah.
You can't share more of the profits with the worker if they can't make a profit on the product because the government is forcing them to produce a product that can't make a profit, and then your idiotic, stupid leadership goes along and says, we have no other choice, that's what we have to do, instead of screaming, as they should have, and I know it would have been bizarre, that the unions are saying, we can't work for a company that doesn't want to make a profit.
Well, and ultimately, we need a long-term policy that is going to mean that those companies are going to be building the cars that are going to be profitable. We're down to the reality of it now, and it used to be that the Democrats were the pro-manufacturing party, and that is no longer the case. And again, you're seeing it. The pushback is there. You ran into an owner of some dealerships, and the sentiment was conveyed that even the liberals that are in charge of these policies know that they can't sustain.
Yeah, in places like California, Illinois, New York, other very liberal places where they're really, especially in California, pushing EVs like crazy. They know, and the dealerships, believe me, they go. Because the dealerships, remember, the local communities are really important. So they actually talk to the state legislators.
Oh, yeah.
And the state legislators, and these are liberal Democratic legislators going, no, we can't do this. We know we can't. We're just too stubborn to admit it. We don't know what the out is in order to do this, but we understand that it can't last. But think about how crazy it is that, that the union management is, basically, and by the way, here's the problem. Union management, the UAW still had tremendous power over the Democratic Party, 20, 25 years ago before the EV thing ever started. They could have used their influence and their power and their donations to force the Democrats to do it, and they didn't. They went in the opposite direction. They worked against their union members.
Yep.
To where we are right now. And they bought in and promoted the lie that electric vehicles would produce more jobs. And that was a lie from day one. And the union leadership went along with that. I have never seen, I would tell you this, you look at the American labor union and you look at, the movement in this country, I've never seen a bigger betrayal of the leadership of unions in the United States.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything.
A direct betrayal.
Such a direct betrayal. I really haven't. And the workers have recognized it, but these union leaders are still in power, like Sean Fain, collecting dues you're paying them to work against your best interest.
Well, we go
sort
back
of
to
like
the
government.
Yeah, we go back to the West Virginia Coal Miners Union in 2008, who supported the guy who had already said, under my plan to cap and trade, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket, and I'm going to bankrupt the coal industry.
Yeah.
They endorsed that guy. Now, this actually is bigger because the UAW has been with the Democrats' leadership, has been with the Democrats for a long, 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 long time. And if you didn't see where we are right now coming from years ago like we did, then you were just not looking. And I don't know how you don't look out for your best interest, and that's where we are right now. Fain said it. Yeah, well, a significant number of our members are going to be voting for the other side.
I believe he said a majority.
Yeah, it was I forget the word that he used, but he used the word.
It indicated
twice.
Majority.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem for leadership. Because here would be the question then. All right, are you going to look for different leadership? You get beyond the presidential election. What about the leadership right there in House? What do you do for the future of the union. I guess that's a different talk show. But the fact of the matter is it has to change because reality isn't going to change. So something else has to give. And there's no way to slice this into something or paint a different picture of what's going on right now. There's no way to sugarcoat what's going on with dealerships, what's going on with the EV mandates that are in place on the way. And it's not just in those states.
Do you remember when we started talking about this? And it really started with illegal immigration. Then it started with electric vehicles too, but that wasn't 20, 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember talking about it, and we would talk about the fact that we're actually more, as Republican conservatives, because we want the industries to survive, which is then more beneficial to the unions, that we are more pro-union than the union leadership. Remember the pushback we got on that? Mm-hmm. We don't get that anymore, do we?
No.
We don't get that pushback anymore.
No, because you look at the right now at the landscape of where we are, and which party is working for you, which party is working to faster and faster toward your end.
Right. Because it's very simple. We want the companies to sell a legitimate product to the public and make as big of a profit as the competition in the automobile industry will allow them to make. And you have a contract with the company to have a share of that profit, and we are totally in agreement with that, working through the capitalist system and the laws of the United States.
Yeah. Right.
That you can provide more efficiency, because that's the point of a union. We provide a better product and better efficiency than the rest of the marketplace. And if you can do that and your company makes a profit, you should get the rewards of it based on the contract you've signed with the company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
By the way, I want to play this very quickly because, we did say Trump could have done better in that, in just a couple of portions of it. I think he held his own in a lot of other areas when he talked to the black journalist yesterday. But here's where he was right on target, and we're glad we did it because we played the audio where Kamala Harris, the new ad where she said she basically communicated will be tougher on the border and has been tougher on the border than Trump. And I'm glad the campaign responded immediately. This is what you have to do because these are things of absolute substance that you can't lose as a Republican or as Donald Trump right now.
Right.
Here we go.
In one of the most astoundingly phony moments in her speech last night, Kamala Harris bragged that, quote, "I will proudly put my record against Donald Trump's any day of the week. I will put it against Donald Trump." This got one of the worst records in anywhere. Well, Kamala, let's go. Challenge accepted. Are you ready? Let's compare our records point by point.
There you have it.
Yep. And by the way, when there's a debate, you bring that to the debate.
Yep.
Let's go point by point on this.
Control the conversation.
Yep. By the way, she did say that at the end of her speech. It was also in the ad, too. I forgot she did that. You remember at the end of this, when she was talking about that she could beat Trump on everything, all the issues, and she goes, and on immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I think that everything that happened yesterday probably is going to be gone, number one, because Republicans are going to be pounding. You can't get away from the sweetheart deal made to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other conspirators of 9/11.
Oh, man.
Who made a deal with the Biden administration yesterday that would make it so they wouldn't get the death penalty. No other details of the plea deal are out yet. But for that to happen is going to outrage so many different people on the same day that the Iranian leader, sorry, I'm not going to use the word supreme, that the Iranian leader came out and said that they're going to directly attack Israel. I mean, those are two major issues that in all likelihood, unless something else comes up, is going to dominate the news. today and going into Friday.
Assisting the enemy at every turn here. That's the MO. That is the behavior. That is the pattern from this administration, and that includes Vice President Harris, period.
And you saw, David Marcus, who's the former Democratic large donor that was trying to do everything to raise money for them in 2016 and in 2020, now has become a Republican, said, I can't do it. That's one of the things right there that he said.
Yep.
We're trying to fund Israel to fight Hamas and Hezbollah that's backed by Iran.
Right.
And this administration, Harris and Biden, have made sure that Iran is fully funded to attack not only Israel, but to United States interests and United States military bases across the world.
Right.
Unbelievable.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.